Hi everyone! So today we're going to be creating a watercolor landscape. So all of our landscapes can look a little bit different. You could decide to put the trees in another area, or you don't want so many trees, or you want no trees at all. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So we talked last week about paper towel clouds, and we're going to kind of create some of that. And I'm also going to show you how to put some drips in your watercolor. I love doing that. At the bottom of my watercolor landscapes, a lot of the time I tilt my paper up with the paint and it runs all the way down, and I love these shapes that it makes on the paper. And it's always different, so it's kind of a surprise. So let's get started. So what I'm gonna do first is I am gonna see where my horizon line is. So where am I want my sky to stop? I'm gonna make it a little confusing though. So I'm gonna take it past there to the bottom of where I want my water to be. Because if we look, I can use that blue in the water that I am using in the sky. And the really great thing about watercolor is when you can kind of think a couple steps ahead, so you can see how to put stuff in without it showing through in an area you don't want. So from here down, I don't want any blue at all. I just want land. So I'm gonna start my line there. And always to keep track of it, you don't have to. You can just do it with a pencil. Oh, I think I might have gotten this tape messed up, but I'm gonna use a piece of tape right about here. So we're gonna go with that. Because I want my lake to kind of come down and my mountains and my trees to maybe to be in this area right here. So always remember, with watercolor, it's better to go from light to dark. So I'm actually pouring my watercolors out, and I use the ones in the little bottles, but sometimes I use the ones that are in the blocks or in a palette, and you can do that. So it's all the same paint, just in a different form. So I'm gonna put this on my palette because I really kind of like that color. And I'm gonna start off with that color, but I'm gonna go into a darker blue too. So do you remember I've told you before, and if you didn't watch last week, that's fine, there's two different ways to put on paint. And it's wet on dry or wet on wet. So wet on wet creates a different effect on wet on dry. Wet on dry, it's like if I put paint right here, I could control it because there's no water moving around my paint. So I'm gonna go in with my blue, and remember I said start with like the lighter one. I'm gonna add a lot of water to that. It's gonna kind of not look like a real good sky blue. It's gonna kind of look a little fake, but that's okay because we're gonna go in and we're gonna layer. So this is wet on wet, so I just take it and I work it all the way down. Because one thing we're gonna really realize too is if we look into the horizon, usually it gets a little lighter as you go down. So it gives us a little bit more intensity at the top, which is just fine. Excuse me. I've got a bit of a cold, so you might hear me coughing away today. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna keep working in this blue, but I'm gonna add a darker blue because remember we go from light to dark. So I'm gonna add some more water to my brush, and I'm okay with these blues mixing, so that's okay. I'm just gonna add a whole bunch of water. And I love this look of it going on wet. And if I want it to be even darker, I'd wait for it to dry and then I go in with another layer, but I really like what this is doing right now. So let's give it a go. And I want to keep going with intensity. So now I'm gonna kind of mix my blues. I'm just gonna go to the dark blue. I really like that color. It's pretty intense. But remember, as it dries, it's gonna get a little lighter too. So you're not gonna get exactly this, and you will learn, like, you'll kind of know what your colors are gonna look like. Here. Piece of dust on my art. Just try to get that out of the way. I'm gonna just go down like this. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna start creating my paper towel clouds. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a paper towel. You could either bunch it in just to a thing, or you could put it over one of your fingers. I like to bunch. And I'm just gonna go in and create my clouds. The clouds at the top and in the middle are gonna probably be bigger clouds than the ones in your horizon, but I just kind of go in and I can cover things up. We're definitely in a working kind of part. So we can go in and add more. We could take more paint away. It's all just adding, right? Oh, I made that one a little thick. So I'm gonna take my paintbrush and go back in. See how easy that is? And I can kind of like make some definitions around my clouds. So just play away and no, there's nothing, you can't do this wrong at all. All of ours are gonna look very different. So I'm gonna do some thin clouds right up here. But I also know that this is probably gonna be my lake area in here. But you can leave clouds in there, that is okay, and then work landing on top of it. It will all work, it's just gonna have a different kind of effect. That's the great thing about watercolor. I really find it's hard to like completely mess up. It's always like, I like the process of it, because for me, I know some watercolor people that are really expert at it, they can go in and they really know what they're gonna get. And for me, I kind of like the experiment. I like to see if my paints drip and what that looks like. So I'm gonna take some of this off my big brush. And we're gonna start talking. I'm not gonna go in now until this is all dry. So I'm gonna go in and create some wet parts of the blue, and I'm gonna add a little bit of purple like I did in here. And you can do any color because the sky is always reflecting different colors. I'm always putting yellows and oranges and purples and dark blues into my sky. So we're gonna add that after, but we're just gonna kind of get the bones of our painting going first. So I just want the background, and then we can like work our way up. Perfect, just like that. So we're gonna have to wait until that dries, and then we're gonna go in and create some more fun. So I'm gonna be back in just a minute when everything gets dry. We're back. So my sky's still a little bit damp, but it's not too bad. So I'm gonna start going in and we're gonna work on the land. So I kind of wanna see where exactly, oh, I gotta reach for my pencil. I thought I had it here, but I didn't. I'm gonna go in and kind of see where I want my horizon line to be. Because remember, we left some of this for the lake. You can start the horizon right here if you like, or you can follow what I'm doing. And what I do is I kind of just go with my paintbrush, because I like doing things quickly, probably too quickly. And to always have a ruler out. And then I might just look here. It looks good. And we're gonna have some trees too, which help. So it kind of like lets me see where I need to work with my land. So I'm gonna take kind of a medium brush, because I'm gonna go in and first work on these these hills or mountains, whatever you like to do, and you can create them differently with different colors. I'm gonna go in with black. And I love using black in my watercolor. I know a lot of watercolors don't, but I really enjoy it because I like the contrast of that soft color and something harder. It comes out a little bit gray if you water it down like I'm going to do. So I'm just gonna make sure it's very, like I've saturated my brush, but I've really kind of worked it in just like this. Uh-oh. See what things can happen? And I wanna show you it's okay, because we're gonna, oh, it worked. You can just kind of lift it right off with your paper towel. Thought I might have a bit more of a mess. Oh, and I have a mess here, which I'm gonna go in and show you how we can lift that all out. So we've got the paper towel. So maybe this is a good lesson. Good lesson to don't do what I did and get too quick. Okay. So I'm gonna go in here where my lines are, and I'm gonna create a straight line, just like that. And yes, I know it looks like it's in the sky, but it's just because I want that little bit of a lake at the bottom. Then I'm gonna work my way in with my hills, just like that. And I made them look a little different than I did in this one. You can just even do two big clumps of land. I'm gonna work this down just a bit to where the trees are gonna be. Okay. I'm gonna pick up some more of my paint, and remember, don't make a mess like I just did. And I can deepen some of this up. See? The more layers we put on. Oh, I love that. That looks so good. So I want it to be maybe a little darker right where it's meeting the water. Because I feel like this would be a little bit more shaded than the top. The top is kind of where the sun is. And I go in and I just kind of create some lines. I find it interesting when it doesn't all look like flat in one color. Perfect, just like that. And then if you look, I kind of come down a little bit closer to the water to where my trees are gonna be. Just like that. And if there's anything you want to change about your painting, just go ahead and do it. Because this is our painting, right? We're the boss of where we put stuff. You don't have to do things exactly like I do. I just wanted to change up maybe this hill a little bit. I'm liking that better. Okay. So we're gonna go in and work on the trees, and this is fun. It's a little, don't let it be overwhelming because I'm gonna start with background trees. So we're going to get time to kind of practice. So if we look behind these darker trees are some lighter trees. So I'm gonna start off with a lighter green. So I just added some of my green to some yellow, and I added a lot of water. Because I wanted it just kind of a brighter light green, but I'm gonna water it down quite a bit because it's just those background ones, right? So I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna make these crazy lines, and they don't have to be the same. We're just gonna work our way all the way through where we want our trees. So you can work them all the way across if you want, but I'm just gonna kind of put them in the little edge. I like that. Okay. Then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna get a little bit more of this green. Oh, it's a fun green. And I'm just gonna lightly kind of work my way around like zigzags all the way down. Zigzags all the way down. All the way down. I need some more paint. Okay. I'll have to tell you something funny. This is like the third time I've done this video because my puppies have not been happy being in the other room, but I must have caught them at a good time because I think they're having a nap in the other room. They usually like to be in here painting with me, and they couldn't understand why they couldn't today because they were knocking over the camera and making a mess. So this is the third time I've done this. So I'm hoping we're getting all the way through. Okay, so I'm working all the way down. Remember our zigzag, zigzag, zigzag. Because it's just going to be in the background, right? It's kind of like just that little image past the trees we're going to put in the front. So we're going to let those dry. See how watercolor is all about us layering and not getting worried when things go wrong, just like me splashing black paint everywhere. Because we made it work, didn't we? So I want to take some of my black paint and I want to add it to a little bit of my brown paint. And you can leave it black paint or you could just pick brown, but I want to kind of mix the two. So it's like a dark brown. And I'm going to water it down quite a bit. That's the nice thing about watercolors. You can water it down and just work with your levels, right? Don't get too over worried about anything. And I'm going to go through. I'm never really good with like straight lines. Unless I'm at my easel. So bear with me. You might see me shake a little bit. That's just what I do. Okay. And I'm going to water it down a little bit more. And I'm going to bring this all the way down. And I'm going to leave some lines that I can fill it in with other ground, right? Like you can see where I have greens and I have some yellows, yellowy greens. So we're going to work on that too, but I'm just going to work just down in a level. It doesn't need to be perfect because we're gonna do lots of layering and the dripping part, which I love. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is, while we're waiting for this stuff to all dry, I wanna go in and start kind of like creating my clouds to be interesting. So it's just not one color. I'm gonna add purple, and you don't have to add purple. You can add a really dark blue, or you can even do a bit of a lighter blue. Like, you can layer with lighter colors and see what happens, or gray. So I'm gonna go in with my purple. And to make purple, we've been learning on the color wheel, we wanna do red and blue. So I'm gonna need to add some more red to that for sure. See, and then we got our purple. And I think I want to add a little bit. I want my purple to be more on the blue side so it doesn't stick out quite so intensely, but I'm going to show you some interesting stuff. So I'm going to go in, this is going to be cool, and I never know how this is going to work out, so let's cross our fingers. I'm going to go in and I'm going to wet my blue right here. So we're creating a wet surface, right? So this is wet on wet, and I'm just gonna go in with my color. And remember last week I told you could just kind of go in and stain? I'm gonna go in and stain that. So I'm just gonna put it in kind of randomly where I like it, and I'm actually gonna go around some of my clouds. So in some of the areas you can actually go in and kind of outline it a bit, right? If you want that to be a nice crisp edge. And I'm going to take my wet brush and I'm going to just drag some of these stains out. But remember, you can leave them if you want, or you could add salt. Watch last week if you haven't, because you're going to learn all these fun techniques that you are the boss and you get to decide when you want to do them and when you don't. Okay, so I'm going to work my way through with my purple paint. But do you see how it's giving me a really nice, like, layered effect? You can see the blue underneath it, and that is the magic. I'm gonna put it into some of the cloud here. This is the magic of watercolor, that we always see what's underneath. So it's learning to layer, and sometimes that can take time and practice. And I promise you're gonna have some you really, really love and some you don't. So do you know how I kind of went in and I stained? I want to go in and show you. If this is dry, what does my blue do? We're not going to wreck it, right? We're just going to work it through differently. So if I kind of put my color in through that, I can grab my paper towel and I can even like lightly dab, right? And it's going to give it a different effect. So it's all about playing with your paint and figuring out what works for you. And I want you to make a mess today. I want you to go through and try lots of different things, and I want you to try it again on a different landscape. I want you to keep trying, because that's how we learn how to work with our paint and our brushes. I can show you things, but it's experimenting and it's practicing and trying and creating, right? Sometimes I just need to get my paints out, and sometimes I just allow myself to make a big mess. There's nothing I'm gonna do with my painting. It's all about learning. And sometimes that helps me kind of get out of my bubble of being comfortable as a painter, that we need to change it up. If you're comfortable, it means you're not pushing yourself. So I just added some water to my brush, and as you can see, it's really diluted, right? So I'm gonna work my way through. Like this. And I kind of like how this is really light in the distance, and I'm going to keep that. But we're all so different. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to I like this cloud, and I kind of like this bit of a line I have here that you can't really see. So remember I said you can even go and outline it. Perfect. Kind of creates that kind of look. Oh my gosh, you guys, these paintings are gonna look professional. That's a great thing about watercolor too, is sometimes you can just go in and they just make absolutely beautiful paintings, and you don't even know what you're gonna get at the end. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do my dark trees now. Remember I said I was just gonna wait for that to dry a little bit, because I wanna do trees over top of those really light ones. So I'm gonna take a really dark kind of green. So I've got that one all created. I added a lot of blue to it. So I'm going to take a little bit more blue and I'm going to add it to my green, and it just kind of makes more of a darker green because I want it to contrast, right? I might even take a little bit of black, add that to dull it down a little bit. And I'm going to go in and I'm just going to flick my tiny little brush up. And remember, those trees, some of them may be a bit taller, right? But some may not. Some may be shorter than the little halo of light trees we have there. So we're going to go in, and I want them kind of close together because I'm going to create them that they're going to kind of be this long, thin kind of pine trees. Just like you see if you're out on the lake in the distance. Okay, here we go. And you can always use a bit of a thicker brush. I like planning out my trees with a thinner brush because I just find it's easier, but try it a different way if you have a different way that's going to work for you. Okay, I'm just going to work my way through here. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to use my darker green. Darken it up just a little bit. Oh, I might overdid it a bit, and that's okay. That's why I've got green there to mix in. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to do like little flicks with my brush. So I'm just kind of creating branches, right? And they don't need to be perfect. Trees are not perfect. If you go out and look, they all look so different. So I did kind of a fat tree here. I'm going to do kind of some thin trees. And I love the way you can see the other green kind of come through. It gives it a real dimensional look, right? Like it looks like there's different layers of trees. So always remember this. This is like, it's so good when you can do things where you can see what's behind and know how to do that. There we go. Into this one. This one. Okay. There we go. Okay. And I noticed this one's a little bare. You can always see that little halo of light green there. So I just kind of want to add a little bit around. See? And I'm just kind of put my brush around. This is going to be great class too if your parents want to try watercolor painting. The nice thing is landscapes, anyone can do them. So the one thing too is water reflects. So I might want to take a little bit of my green, not too much, it's very diluted, and I'm going to pull just a line of green through my water so you can see where the trees are. And then there's some purple in the sky, so I'm going to add a little bit of purple. So if you use blue, get your blue. But I'm just going to go through and it's very diluted so you can see through it. Just going to add just some different reflections in the water. Perfect. I think I'm going to deepen up this one hill while we're here. You might not have to, but I don't like how washed out it is completely. Perfect. Just like that. I'm liking it now. And then I'm going to go in and we're going to have fun. Let's try this out. So I'm going to use my lighter green that I use for the tree. So I want to balance my picture. So I want to take some different greens that I have. Sorry. And I've got it really diluted. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to do random kind of sweeps of my bright green in through here. So I'm just really lightly, see how you can just see a little bit of the color. Just like that. We're going to wait for it to dry just a little bit. Just don't want it sopping wet. And while I'm doing that, I am going to grab my brush and I'm going to kind of mix a whole bunch of the dark green because it's the drip time, like where we go do the drips. And oh my gosh, I love it. I think it looks absolutely fabulous. But I want it to be a nice dark green that we're gonna see this effect because it's really cool. So I've added blue, green, and a little touch of black or gray. And I'm gonna make sure my brush is loaded. Just be careful you don't get it all over the rest of your painting like I kind of did earlier. And we're going to put we're gonna layer on this green right here. And then layer it on here. We're gonna layer it so it's like puddles. Don't make it crazy puddles, but enough it's gonna run. I lift my paper up, and I'm hoping you guys can see. You can even use a straw or your breath. And I grab some water if it's not dripping really well, and I'll add a little bit of water to keep it going. See, it's magic, I think. Because you're just not gonna know what these are gonna look like, what these drips are gonna look like. So I'm gonna work that in like this. But you see how it's just like a random shape, just I'm allowing it to kind of do what it's gonna do. And you can even do this with sky. You could add some blue and add some drips. They're lots of fun. And art is sometimes about the process of seeing what you're gonna end up with. Okay, so I made a drippy mess, but that is okay. So now I have lots of green, dark green here, and I want to maybe add some just to kind of bring my eye up so I can kind of see it bounce in my picture. So I'm going to go in and we're going to just create some lines of green. If you notice, my painting is not the exact same as the one that I've showed you, but I painted it the same, right? So the amount of water you use, the color process you use, because these are all very translucent, it's all going to change things up. And I really like that about watercolor. So I'm just, and you'll probably hear my family, I think, is coming home. So you can probably hear the door open, but that's okay. They were being so good and letting me have the time I needed to make this video. Sometimes it's hard during the week. Sometimes I end up doing it at the beginning of the week, and sometimes I have to kind of get them done when I'm off work on the weekends, but it all works, right? Here we go. Oh my gosh, I love it. It looks so good. The one thing I did in my practice one that I want to do again is I want to add some purple down to here. Just, it's a little interesting, right? Like just leaving little pockets of the color I used in the sky. Perfect, just like that. I love this landscape. It is so much fun. Okay, and now I go through and I see, is there anything I want to deepen up some more? Because remember, this is all about layering. So I'm gonna go in. Oh, that's pretty dark. But I'd like a bit of a darker piece of my skies right at the top. So I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna use my brush to just give me a little bit more color to those areas that I wanted to. And I'm gonna add a little bit of purple just to kind of tone that blue down. I didn't realize how intense that was gonna be. But remember, it always dries lighter than we think it will. So if you think something's really dark, just wait. Okay, just like that. A little bit more of that blue, that crazy blue to my purple. But see how it's all just working your way through. Perfect. I love it. So I'm gonna wait till it kind of dries here so you guys can see the finished product. But I'm gonna just go in and kind of clean up this blue a little bit. So it's pretty much just go through your painting and see what you think. Where do you need to increase the color? But I'm starting to really love that now. It doesn't look so washed out. We're still waiting for our drips to kind of dry, and I'm gonna go through and add just a little bit of texture to my sky. My paper towel. And I love sometimes you can see the texture of the paper towel. And then I'm gonna go in and just kind of clean up my big puddles that are off the paper. Well, perfect. There's one more spot I wanted to have a bit of a drip. And there we got it. We pretty much have done this. And see how different they look? I'm using the same colors, same kind of format, but it's always going to look different. And that's the beautiful part about art. So I hope you enjoyed the class today. Please send me your photos, email them, send them my way so I can take a look. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.